All right, YouTube, this is Detroit's HPTV coming to you out of Detroit, back with another video on this Tuesday morning. Man, have y'all been following Candace Owens' expose and attack on Kamala Harris? She has done a deep dive into Kamala Harris's lineage background. It's interesting, and I don't know why the Democrats and their pundits are ignoring it, because Kamala Harris, she made being a black woman the litmus test for her getting the black vote. Instead of just saying she was Southeast Asian and running as a candidate who had good policies, she chose to go with the race card. Now, when she came out against Janet Jackson, well, she didn't come out against Janet Jackson. The pundits on the left came out against Janet Jackson. So Candace Owens took it upon herself to just jump in. Now, Candace Owens is controversy. Yeah, she is controversy because of her opinions, her views, and her ability to maintain an audience and her ability to be undefeated in the debate. I don't care what anybody says. Nobody really wants to debate Candace Owens because she's going to come with her receipts. She's going to come with her facts. And a lot of people don't like her, but you have to respect her. So I'm going to do a reaction video to Pink Book Lessons. And I want you to pay attention to this story and tell me what you think when you see this and see what's revealed. And you're going to have to ask yourself, who is Kamala Harris? Now, this video is for fair usage under the 1976 Copyright Act for education and commentary in the First Amendment. I'm telling you, you're going to ask, who is Kamala Harris for real? Check this out.
Y'all, they done caught Kamala Harris out here posing with this fake grandma and hiding this one. Listen, you have to watch this whole video today. We're going to get into it, but first, take a second to make sure you're subscribed to the channel and click the notification bell for all updates. The Kamala Harris defense team is really quiet right now, acting like they didn't see the 4-piece special, exposing the lies of their curry queen. After all these folks came for Janet Jackson, remember first, it was this lady right here who popped it all off, the reporter at The Guardian. She really tried to come for Janet Jackson and the Jackson family. Yeah, tried to make Janet Jackson look like she was crazy in that little article she wrote, that hit piece. She's super tired.
And I'm just going to interject before we continue with the video. What would make the left and this cause playing chameleon think that they could actually come for Janet Jackson, an icon, an American black icon, over Kamala Harris, whose lineage and loyalty to the country is questionable at best? You know, her ideas are wild. Kamala Harris says she wants to give prisoners gender reassignment, children gender reassignment. It's crazy. It's like she wants to move to a society where there is no gender. We just all run around here like eunuchs, and people still support her to the point that they actually came for Janet Jackson. This crazy.
Diabolical, releasing that crap a week after Tito Jackson died. This lady right here. And then D.L. Hughley and Roland Martin, both of them together jumped Janet Jackson in defense of Kamala the cosplaying chameleon. But it was this reporter right here who instigated the whole situation. D.L. Hughley and Roland Martin protecting this Indian woman while jumping a black woman, Janet Jackson. The only black woman on the screen right now. I already said what I had to say about DL, out of order, and Roland Martin need to go finish looking at all those men on his computer and leave Janet Jackson alone. Well, after trying to make Janet look like she was crazy and didn't know what she was talking about, they caught the attention of one person, and let's just say no one was ready for this rabbit hole she went down.
And by the way, I'm going to say this and people can be offended, but the first thing that I thought when I saw the photo of her sitting on her great grandmother's lap was that this doesn't look like a grandparent affection going on here. Like, this woman looks like she could be working for the family. Quite literally, I thought to myself, this woman looks like she could be the help. And I thought that because there's a lack of affection there. Do you know what I mean? But there's no, like, in both of the photos, there's a lack of affection. It's just like a woman standing next to her. And I obviously know that that was a circumstance. When you're talking about a family that had a ton of plantations, which is the reality. She descends from Irish slavers. That is a fact that Kamala Harris cannot deny. She descends from wealthy Irish slavers who virtually they did own the town. They named the town. It was Hamilton Town, then it was Brownstown in Jamaica. He had over 1,000 slaves, okay? It would follow that there would be help around the house. And I'm just going to put here as a question mark, not as a fact. If they're looking at some of these photos of people who became like family and they're trying to pass them off like relatives, again, not a fact, a huge question mark, but my instinct tells me that that person is actually not her family member. And if it is, well, Kamala's got some explaining to do. How did she meet Grandma Beryl almost 20 years after Grandma Beryl died?
Yeah, coming for Janet Jackson's neck resulted in Candace Owens digging through Kamala's Jamaican part of the family to see if Janet was right. There's no argument about her mom's side. Everybody's in agreement that her mother is Indian. The part that was always sketchy was the Jamaican side. It was just weird that all these folks were so adamant about calling Janet Jackson's comments misinformation, but none of them actually did any research at all to verify Janet's claims. They just always went along with Kamala's dad, Donald J. Harris, was Jamaican, so that meant he was black. When anyone with sense knows Jamaica is a country, a nationality, not a race. I've had some Jamaicans in here laughing in the comments because they also testified that there are white Jamaicans, Chinese, Indian Jamaicans. They're all there too. Everyone on the island is not of African descent. The biggest lie that was exposed is Kamala the cosplay chameleon showing a picture in her book of a lady named Beryl. She said that was her grandmother, Beryl. Yeah, Kamala's grandmother is supposedly a woman named Beryl Finnegan. Someone her father didn't talk about much. This picture just popped up when Kamala was running for president the first time. You know, when she tried to cosplay as a black American woman all of a sudden. After years of running as an Indian American woman, she was desperately trying to blacken up her whole story. She went from propping up her Indian family to all of a sudden always talking about Howard and AKAs. Kamala the cosplay chameleon erased everything else, like her Canadian background, that most Americans didn't know about until a couple of months ago. Yeah, we're talking about the lady that's been in the White House for nearly 4 years. No one knew about her Canadian background. Her Indian mother raped.
I'm going to pose a question. If you're from another country and you want to reap the benefits of being an American after you come to America and you can't pass for white, your next thing is to pass for black so that you can reap the benefits of the civil rights movement, the legislation, and the history of black Americans, which would have you entitled to go into HBCUs and make you a part of a lineage that's tied to this country. So don't think for 1 minute that people don't plan and strategize how they're going to be successful when they come to another country. They have an idea. They have a plan. They have done research. They just don't get off the boat. Not these educated people and not have a strategy. She was Indian out of her own mouth until she started having eyes toward the White House. Now, that means the Indian vote she probably would have gotten, but she probably wouldn't have gotten the black vote. She knows this. And on the Democratic ticket, they have an idea in their mind that the black vote belongs to them, that the mind of black Americans should be Democratic, even though they're the party of the KKK, Jim Crow, and Dixiecrats. So her trick is being exposed, and they have no answer to what Candace Owens has uncovered. Check it out.
Raised her in Canada with her Indian family members. She went to middle school up there, high school, and started college there. Most of her friends were non-black women. Even now, Kamala's closest friends are white women. And listen, the woman isn't black American in any way, lineage, race, or culture. The only black in her was a black man named Willie Brown. We're talking about the married man that was a politician out in California. She was his mistress. And he used his political power to get her into office in San Francisco before they pushed her to be the AG of the state. But hey, if she wanted to be the president of the United States as a Democrat, she had to get real black support. And her days of sleeping with Willie Brown and going to these Hollywood parties were over when she married Doug Emhoff, a man who cheated on his ex-wife and allegedly was out here getting women pregnant as a married man. Very interesting, by the way. But yeah, Kamala had no real ties to Black America, so she had to make up some and do it really quick. Now, how did she do that? Well, she took this picture of a black Jamaican woman and called her Grandma Beryl. This picture was taken in Jamaica around the 80s or 90s. The only problem is Beryl Finnegan, she died in 1960. 4 years before Kamala was even born. Based on all the official records, Beryl died in 1960. Kamala was born in California in 1964. So how could she be standing next to a woman in the 80s or 90s that died 20 to 30 years prior?
As speculated, we were able to confirm that Kamala's black grandmother that she showed us in that picture died in 1960, before Kamala was born. I can show you right now her death certificate. Let's take a look at Beryl's death certificate, which confirms. As you can see there, it says that she died in July of 1960. It also tells us on the right-hand side, you guys probably have to zoom in on this, but she died of a uterine infection, uterine fibroids due to a hysterectomy. It has her listed as 39 years. That's actually a couple of years off from 1917, so somebody may have gotten their math wrong here. But you once again see that it lists her birthplace as St. Anne. And so this is a huge scandal. Just an absolutely huge scandal. Kamala Harris published in her book that she was standing next to her Grandma Beryl. But Grandma Beryl died in 1960, 4 years before Kamala Harris was born. So who the hell is the real Beryl? Who is that woman standing next to Kamala Harris?
And on his paternal side, as I mentioned previously here on the channel, he was a descendant of a very well-known slave owner and politician, Hamilton Brown. Hamilton came from Ireland to buy land and slaves. He had over 1,100 of them and was paid millions of dollars in reparations after slavery was abolished in Jamaica. Side note, that explains a lot because Kamala Harris, remember she said she wouldn't do anything specifically for black people?
So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people. No.
But on her dad's side of the family, she's got slave masters on his mother's side and his father's side. This is why for years, Donald J. Harris didn't claim to be black at all. He told people he was Irish and Indian. But when his daughter Kamala, the cosplaying chameleon, needed to conjure up some blackness and find ways to relate to black Americans, she put up a picture of this woman right here who wasn't her grandmother at all. She straight up lied. How? Because there's no way you could be standing next to a deceased woman 20 to 30 years after her death. They had all of these white people in their family in Jamaica, but didn't show any of them, including her grandmother here, a white woman who was married to her granddad. Eventually, after her granddad died, this woman, her other white grandmother, moved to South Florida, where she remarried in the 90s. This grandmother...
What happened with the audio? Oh, they really blocking this story. They don't want this story out. Hold on a minute.
Died around the time Kamala was running for president in 2019, and you can definitely see some similarities in the two. In the eyes, nose, mouth, hairline, the pattern of her hair growth, but this woman's photo was never shown in the book that Kamala released. I wonder why.
And here you have it, born in Elizabeth. St. Elizabeth is, here she is. This is this woman, Vioris Cambridge, born to Vivian Cambridge and Adina Wright on October 7th, 1927 in St. Elizabeth, Jamaica. What the hell is going on? Who is this woman? Why hasn't this been mentioned? Why does it feel like this profile was being very hidden? And again, as Donald was jumping in to his family background and speaking about how Jamaican it was, why didn't he mention this? Why didn't he mention this woman, his white relatives? It might be relevant when we're having a discussion about Kamala's race to mention the fact that your dad married a white woman. I'm just saying, here's another picture of her, and there's something familiar about her smile. There's something familiar. I'm looking at this woman, I'm going, this woman looks to me like Kamala Harris. Now, something even weirder, the person who did create something for her online, okay, who created a profile for her on Ancestry.com, look what he put in the middle of her name. He lists her name as Vioris Anita Iris Cambridge. Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. So we looked into this briefly, and again, all of this has transpired within the last 4 hours. So we are not as organized about this, or I shouldn't say, we are not as certain about this, but it looks like the person who made this entry was a member of her extended family. It looks like she got remarried in 1994 in America, and that's where she picks up the name McPherson, and that individual put Iris in quotation marks. Is it possible that Donald J. Harris, when he's fondly remembering Miss Iris, could be speaking about this woman? Yeah, it's possible. Everything's a possibility. Like I said, he's very scant on the details here. What we do know is that he declined to mention this woman. He declined to mention someone that his father married who was completely white. And as I said, I wouldn't have an issue with this if people were forthcoming and spoke about this. The press, as you're out there referring to Janet Jackson as crazy, right, for suggesting, what did Janet Jackson say? She said that she heard that Kamala's father, Donald J. Harris, was Irish. Can somebody pull up that picture of yours again? She heard that his family was Irish. I think Vioris, maybe Vioris Cambridge, might be Irish. Was she so crazy to mention that, press? Or would it be so crazy if you guys did your actual job and looked into these things as opposed to constantly trying to obscure things to protect your preferred candidates because you believe she should just be handed this? Now the question is it possible that the woman that we're looking at right there is Kamala's grandmother? Is it possible, based on the records that we have, that Beryl and Donald never did marry? Is it possible Beryl and Oscar, never did marry? Is it possible, is it feasible that marriage never took place and they both married two different people, and that instead, at some point when they decided to blackify Kamala's history, they included this Beryl as her grandmother? Is it possible?
How was Kamala standing next to Beryl as a grown woman when Beryl died 4 years before Kamala's mother gave birth to her? Like, come on, we're not stupid. Come to find out, the black woman she posted here was actually a servant and not the mother of Donald J. Harris. Now, since Kamala was caught up in these lies, people like to move the goalposts and say, why does her race matter? Well, it matters if you're running for office to make history as the first black American female president and telling us that we need to vote for her because she's black when she's not black at all. Well, that's the problem. She's trying to fool us. Why didn't she just run as the first Indian president? Oh yeah, because she was afraid she wouldn't get the black folks on her side. I guess she figured to get black votes, she had to act like she was us when she wasn't like us at all. You know, she could have had a plan for black America. She could have had policies, but no, she's trying to rig it. She don't even have black friends. Most of Kamala's real friends in real life, they're white. So Kamala, she decided she would be Rachel Dolezal Jr., and this is how she got these so-called black men and the black feminists crashing out left and right for an Indian and Irish woman cosplaying as a black American woman. Let's go ahead and get the conversation started. Let me know what you think about this below. I want to send a big thank you to Judith Lyon, Robert, and Shauna. I definitely appreciate all of you for supporting the channel. If you want to show your support for the channel too, you have to use PayPal for now. The link is below. Ladies, fellas, want a balanced analysis, want the truth from a woman's perspective? Then you're going to want to subscribe to this channel and don't forget to like and share.
Shout out to Pink Book Lessons and Candace Owens, because this seems kind of Manchurian candidate-ish. And for some reason, the Democrats are not responding to the expose and the research that Candace Owens is doing, because there's no answer, because she's coming with facts, birth certificates, death certificates. She has her receipts. Why would somebody hide their whole identity, change their whole lineage, and get in front of America and play the race card to the point to where you have the black community divided against support for a Southeast Asian Indian woman? The closer we get to November the 5th, you got to be careful, because have you paid attention that the dock workers in the ports are on strike, which is going to cause another food shortage, 2 attempts on Trump's life, hurricanes, so much is going on that you can't take anything for granted. And in the back of your mind, when you look at what's really going on, you have to ask yourself, who is Kamala Harris, really? And why is it so important that she be black, to where you had D.L. Hughley, Roland Martin, and all these other lefties crashing out to uplift her identity, not none of her policies. We know what her policies is. Gender reassignment, late-term abortion, open borders. She hasn't said anything else. So why are they so adamant about attacking anybody who questions her race, except Candace Owens and Joe Brown? They won't attack Joe Brown or Candace Owens as it relates to Kamala Harris, because they have platforms big enough to fight back and to actually expose more. So their silence is damage control. That's what it is. This is an interesting story. Well, anyway, that's all I have for you this morning. This is Detroit's HPTV, sending to you out Detroit. Support the nonprofit, Detroit's Black Thought and Action Collective. The Cash App is in the description. As always, salute to all patriots. Keep your head on a swivel. Like, share, and subscribe. Peace.